The type of lock I'm going to be putting on the door is what's known as a passage lock, and it doesn't actually lock, it just allows you to open and close the door. You'll often see this type of lock on a hall closet or some other door that doesn't need to be locked. Before I prep the door for this lock, I need to decide what the back set's going to be. The back set is the distance from the center of the handle to the edge of the door. Normally there are two standard dimensions for that. The first is 2 3/8 and the other is 2 3/4. Whenever possible, I like to use the 2 3/4 because it gives a bit more space between the door handle and the frame. Also, there are a couple options for mounting the latch itself in the door. Standard approach is to mortise in for this rectangular plate and then drive 2 screws. Recently, you've had the option of using this piece of trim here. Now, the way this works is that you would take this apart by prying it apart like this. Remove this, and then this would just slip on over it and lock in place. Now, the advantage of this is that this will work with a 1-inch hole. Normally you have to drill a 1-inch hole for this latch anyway, and then this will just slip right in. So that's a big time saver, and whenever possible, I like to use this this type of mounting. It just saves so much time. It's normally a lot easier to install the lock once the door is hung in the opening. That way you can comfortably drill out for the holes and not worry about it moving around too much. Typical mounting height in a house for a lock of this type is around 36 inches off the floor. You can vary that from 36 up to 40 inches. In that range is fairly normal. Here I've made the rail in the door at 36 inches on center, so that's where I'm going to center the lock. I've measured up 36 inches, and now I'll measure back 2 3/4. That'll give me my center line to drill the 2 1/8 hole. I've also made a mark on the edge of the door, in the center of the door, at the 36-inch mark. That'll be for the latch. Here I've got a 2 1/8 inch hole saw that I'm going to drill the hole through the door with. Now, when the hole saw starts to contact the door, you'll be able to tell that you're drilling straight by the ring that it leaves. If it's leaving an even ring, even cut all the way around, try to maintain that position and you'll be drilling straight through the door. Like that. You get a continuous ring around and then you know you're straight. Take it out and clear the chips out every once in a while so it doesn't get jammed up. Also, wobbling it slightly will help it cut faster. Now, I'm not looking to go all the way through the door. What I want to do is go a little over halfway from this side and then finish the cut from the other side. Now I can finish the cut from the other side. that's it. That's the hole drilled. I need to make a 1-inch hole through the edge of the door into this hole so that the latch can go in. Normally you would do that with a spade bit, but I can't find my 1-inch spade bit, so I'm going to use a 1-inch Forstner bit, which does the job too. When you're doing this, you have to pay attention that you don't go over to one side or the other and then go through the side of the door. That would be bad. What you want to look for when you're drilling in is that the shaft of the drill bit is centered in the hole. If it's off to one side, that means you're going in that direction. So try to keep it centered in the hole by eye, and it should be okay. That's it. Hole is drilled. And this will just go in and you'll line it up as well as you can. Press it in. Make sure that it's vertical. And then use a piece of wood to drive it in flush. Push in, latch so you don't damage it. And that's it, that's done. With the holes drilled and the latch put in, I'm ready to put the handle on. And this one only goes in a certain way. It locks into the latch part with these two ears that stick out. So you have to pay attention to that it's in the correct spot. And then the inside part goes on. And then there are two screws that will go through and hold the lock together. So get them started by finger and then use a screwdriver. It's tempting to use a driver, a power driver, but the chances are you're going to strip the screw or you're going to cross thread it. So better to use a screwdriver and just take your time. What I do is I push this handle up against the door so that the screws are pushed in also, and I turn the top one a few times, and I turn the bottom one a few times until the handle is brought tight against the door on the other side. When it starts to get close to being tightened up, move the lock probably upwards a little bit so it's not laying down in the bottom of the cutout. Usually it will, because there's a lot of space in there for it to move. So push it up slightly so that your latch is pretty much straight up and down, and then tighten the screws. You want to make the screws fairly tight. You don't want the handle to move around on the door. At this point, you try it and make sure that it's retracting the latch fully in both directions, if your knob works like that, and to make sure that it's not loose. Check your screws again, and that's it. The lock is installed. Now that the lock is installed, I need to prep the frame for the strike plate, and I got my template out again, and I made a new cutout on it, and that's the size for this strike plate. The cutout on the template is slightly larger for the collar that's on my router. It works the same way as the cutouts for the hinges that I used earlier. Okay, I've attached my template, and I also drilled the 1-inch hole to receive the plunger of the latch. Then the template can be removed. And in this case, the strike has the rounded corners, and they're a 1/4-inch radius. So my 1/2-inch bit cut an exact profile for the strike. Now all I need to do is drill 2 pilot holes here, and drive the screws to secure the strike. Now with the strike installed, I can check to see that the door closes and latches properly. I still need to put a stop on here for the door to close against. Since this is just a garage workshop, I'm going to make my stop out of half-inch plywood. And I've just eased the edge with the plane just slightly so it's not sharp. The first piece to go on is on the hinge side, and you want to close the door and then put your stop that's been cut to length in place. And then I use a piece of cardboard. This is from a package, and use that as a spacer between the stop and the door. What you want to leave is enough room for paint. You can actually leave a little bit more than this, but I typically go with a piece of cardboard. And just nail it on. Work downwards, using the spacer and nailing it on as you go. To set the stop on this side, close the door, push the latch so that it's just catching, and I'll slide my stop in so that it's up against the door. And then take my cardboard shim, put that between the stop and the door, and push that in fairly tight. Put a nail in. And you want to check the door to make sure it opens and closes properly. It should not bind, it should not be hard to turn the handle. There should be a little bit of space here for the door to move. So with the door closed, I can finish nailing on the stop. I want to keep the same gap, that cardboard in there, and just nail here, and then one at the top and a couple at the bottom. Well, that's it. Just put a few more nails in to make sure it's secure, and that stop is installed. There's just one more piece of stop left to install, and that's the one for the head. You want to save that one for the end. Always you want to do the hinge side first, latch side second, head third. Normally, when these pieces are profiled, that means if they're a molding pattern cut in, you would put these on with the square cut on the end, and then you would cope the top part to fit between. It's also possible to do 45-degree miters, but the best way is to cope it in. In this case, I've got just a flat square profile, so there's not much to it. It's the same as doing all the other parts. Close the door, put the stop in place, line it up where you need it to go, and then nail it on. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. Well, good morning and welcome to the new Yankee Workshop.